The first time a police officer asked me why I had brought a knife to school, Bruce was 6 desks behind me helping Ms. Sato collect homework. That was how he survived everything. He knew where to stand. He knew when to smile. He knew how to make cruelty small enough to fit under an adult's hearing. The officer held the pocket knife in a clear evidence sleeve. The plastic caught the classroom lights and flashed white along the seams. His thumb pressed against the label, leaving a cloudy oval of breath and heat. The knife inside looked dull and ordinary, almost harmless. The kind of thing that might belong in a drawer beside batteries and loose screws. "It was in your bag," he said. My backpack lay open on Ms. Sato's desk like something cut apart for study. Math homework, lunch tin, pencil case, spare shirt, a wrinkled permission slip, and the knife. I had never seen it before. The classroom smelled like dry erase marker, warm plastic, floor wax, and the sour milk stink of someone's forgotten lunch. The air conditioner clicked, but did not cool anything. Sweat gathered under my collar and made the back of my shirt stick to my skin. "Maybe someone put it there," I said. Ms. Sato sighed. Not loudly, not cruelly. Worse. Tiredly. The tiredness did more damage than shouting ever could have. It told me she had already filed me away. It told me I was one more problem in a long day of problems. One more student with one more excuse. Behind me, Bruce stacked worksheets into neat piles. Paper whispered against paper. "Sir," Bruce said softly, "I saw them messing around near their bag earlier." He did not look at me when he said it. He didn't need to. By then, everyone knew what kind of student I was supposed to be. The kind who lied. The kind who disrupted class. The kind who somehow kept ending up with stolen homework, cigarettes, cash, answer keys, credit chits, and once a bottle of cheap liquor tucked under their books. The kind who made adults tired. Bruce had been careful with me for 3 years. He started small. First year, he whispered, always from behind me, always just loud enough. "Freak, bitch, waste, no one likes you." His breath would touch the back of my neck when he leaned forward. Spearmint gum most days. Cinnamon when he wanted to cover the smell of cafeteria meat. Sometimes after gym, sweat and deodorant, and something hot and sour beneath it. If I turned around, he would be looking down at his notes. If I raised my hand, he would blink at the teacher like he had no idea why I was upset. If I snapped, everyone saw me snap. That was the trick. Bruce understood very early that being believed was a kind of wealth. He had more of it than I did. Second year, he started touching my things. He drew on my books whenever I left them under my desk. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious enough to make the adults care, just enough to ruin them. Black circles over faces in history texts, little knives in the margins of my notebooks. My name scratched out until the paper buckled. When I complained, the teacher asked why I kept leaving my belongings unattended. Third year, he started planting things. Other students' homeworks, a missing credit chit, a lighter, cigarettes, cash from the collection envelope for the summer trip. Then the pocket knife. That was the one that brought the police. Through all of it, Bruce stayed clean. He answered questions in class, held doors open for teachers, helped younger students find their rooms, remembered birthdays, said, "Yes, ma'am," in a voice so smooth it made adults soften around him. His hair was always combed. His shirt was always tucked in. He could be cruel to me, and then 10 seconds later, kneel to pick up a stack of papers someone had dropped. Adults loved boys like Bruce because boys like Bruce made their jobs easier. I made their jobs complicated. By the end of the third year, my parents didn't know what to believe anymore. That was the part Bruce enjoyed most, I think. Not the whispers, not the stolen things, not even the planted knife. He liked watching the people who should have protected me become tired of trying. My mother stopped asking what happened and started asking, "What did you do this time?" My father stopped coming to school meetings after the second police visit. After that, he said very little. He would sit at the kitchen table with both hands around a cup of coffee going cold, looking at me as if I were a fire he no longer knew how to put out. Bruce had not just bullied me, he had edited me. He had revised me in everyone else's eyes until I looked like the person he needed me to be. So on the last day of school, I decided to edit him back. It was not a good plan. I know that now. It was childish, petty, desperate. But desperation does not feel like desperation while it is happening. It feels like clarity. The last day barely counted as school. The classroom smelled like old paper, floor cleaner, sweat, and the sharp plastic scent of storage bins being opened for summer. Half the desks were empty. Teachers had stopped pretending we were learning anything. Sun pressed through the windows until every surface looked too bright, too flat, overexposed. Someone had spilled juice near the trash can. Flies gathered there in small black knots, lifting and settling, lifting and settling. Bruce was across the room talking to Kiara. She laughed at something he said, but I could tell from the stiffness in her shoulders that she was being polite. Kiara laughed like that around people she didn't want to offend. Small, careful, her eyes already searching for somewhere else to go. Bruce leaned against her desk like he owned the air around it. He liked her. Everyone knew. Bruce was good at hiding cruelty. He was not good at hiding wanting. I sat at my desk and checked the envelope in my lap. It was sealed, light as a leaf, heavy as a brick. On the outside, I had written Bruce's name in the prettiest handwriting I could manage. I put a heart over the U because I thought that would make it convincing. Inside was a fake love note from Kiara. "Meet me at my house tonight. Back door, 8 o'clock. Don't tell anyone." I imagined him showing up. I imagined Kiara's parents opening the door. I imagined questions, embarrassment, maybe anger. Maybe someone finally seeing him as the kind of person who lied, who snuck around, who made people uncomfortable. At first, that was enough. Then the fantasy grew. Maybe his parents would ground him all summer. Maybe Kiara would tell everyone. Maybe the teachers would finally look at him differently. Maybe the police would talk to him, for once. Maybe somehow he would be the one sitting in a hard plastic chair while adults looked disappointed. When no one was watching, I slipped the note into his bag. The paper made almost no sound going in. My fingers shook afterward, not from fear, from something close to joy. For the rest of the day, I felt weightless. Even Bruce's voice behind me could not touch me. Even when he whispered, "Enjoy summer, loser," I smiled down at my desk. That should have warned me. I was too happy. After school, the sun sat low and white over National City, flattening everything into glare. Heat rose from the pavement in wavering sheets. My backpack clung damply to my shirt. The air tasted like dust, exhaust, old gum, and the sour sweet rot of fruit fallen from the trees along the side streets. I took the narrow way home because it was faster and because I was stupid enough not to look behind me. The hand on my shoulder was familiar before I knew whose it was. Bruce's fingers dug into the muscle near my neck. "So," he said close to my ear, "you thought I was stupid enough to fall for that?" His breath was hot against my skin. Cinnamon gum, sweat, something metallic beneath it. My stomach dropped so sharply it felt like stepping into empty air. I tried to twist away. His grip tightened. "What are you talking about?" My voice came out thin. He shoved me forward into the brick wall of the alley. My shoulder hit first. Pain flashed down my arm. My cheek scraped rough brick, and dust stuck to my lips. "The note," he said. "The fake note from Kiara." I turned enough to see him. He was not shouting. That scared me. Bruce's face was flushed, but his voice was low, controlled. His eyes were wet bright and wide, but his mouth had settled into a small, hard smile. He held something in his right hand. At first, I thought it was just a handle. Then I saw the sheath. A large buck knife. Too large for school, too large for a pocket. The kind of knife someone brought because they wanted to feel its weight. A memory flickered through me. The pocket knife in the evidence slip. Bruce's polite voice. "I saw them messing around near their bag earlier." Maybe he had always carried one. Maybe he had only wanted everyone to think I did. "You never thought I'd ask her?" Bruce said. "You really thought I'd just show up at her house like some idiot?" He laughed once. It wasn't a happy sound. "She told me we were just friends." He stepped closer. The alley seemed to narrow around him. Brick wall on one side, chain link fence on the other. Overflowing trash bins at the far end, stinking of spoiled milk, sun-warmed meat, and something wet turning bad beneath plastic. Somewhere beyond the buildings, traffic moved like water. Close enough to hear, too far to help. I didn't. The hilt struck the back of my skull. White flashed behind my eyes. For 1 second, the world had no sound. Then everything rushed back wrong. A high ring in my ears, grit under my shoes, Bruce breathing through his nose, my own breath breaking apart in my throat. I staggered, my hands scraped the wall. The brick felt hot enough to burn. Bruce watched me try to stand upright. Later, I understood that the note had not embarrassed him. It had exposed him. Not to everyone else, to himself. For one moment, Kiara had not wanted him. For one moment, I had not stayed beneath him. For one moment, the world had tilted in a direction he had not approved. He could not tolerate that. His fist drove into my stomach. All the air left me. Not like a gasp, not like a sigh. It was as if someone had reached inside my ribs and scooped me hollow. I folded forward, hands pressed uselessly to my middle. My mouth opened. Nothing came in. My throat made a dry clicking sound. My tongue tasted like dust and spit, and the sharp acid of almost vomiting. Bruce leaned close. "You don't get to laugh at me," he said. I wanted to tell him I hadn't laughed. I wanted to say I was sorry. I wanted to say anything that would turn him back into the quiet thing he had always been. The thing that whispered, the thing that planted evidence, the thing that ruined me without needing to touch me. Then he drew the knife. The blade made a soft, clean sound leaving the sheath. I remember that sound better than the first cut. A whisper of metal against leather. almost gentle. My hand rose because my body understood before I did. "No," I said, or maybe I only mouthed it. Bruce slashed. The blade opened the back of my hand. For one strange second, it felt hot. Not sharp, hot. Like he had drawn a line of fire across my skin. Then the blood came. Bright red. Too bright in the sun. It welled up and ran between my fingers, slick and immediate. A drop hit the pavement and spread into the dust, turning it black. This was not another trick, not another setup, not another thing he could deny. Bruce was going to kill me. The thought arrived without drama. Plain, heavy, certain. Bruce smiled. Not with his mouth, exactly, with his eyes. I had seen that look before, when teachers blamed me, when my parents stopped asking questions, when I shouted and he stayed silent behind me, clean and believed. He had always liked hurting me. This was only the first time he needed both hands. "Fight back," he said. "Come on." He jabbed the knife forward. I twisted away. Not fast enough. Pain burst through my left arm, white and total. He had stabbed into the meat above my wrist. Not deep enough to pin me. Deep enough to make my fingers go numb. I made a sound I had never heard from myself before. Thin, animal. Bruce breathed out slowly, pleased. "Fight back," he said again. "Then I can tell him it was self-defense." That was when I saw the shape of it. He had brought the knife, but he had already written the story. Troublemaker student attacks model classmate. Known history of theft, weapons, disruptions. Bruce defends himself. Tragic, but understandable. He would still win, even with my blood on his hands. Maybe especially then. I spat in his face. It was not brave. It was the only thing my body could do that was not begging. For half a second, the alley went still. Spit ran down Bruce's cheek. His face changed. There it was again. Humiliation. Hotter than anger. Older than anger. The unbearable fact of me doing something to him. He slammed his forehead into my nose. Something cracked. The world burst red. Blood flooded my mouth, thick and salty, copper-rich. My eyes watered so badly the alley became a smear of brick and sunlight. I tasted mucus, blood, and the gritty dust from the wall. Bruce cursed and wiped his face with his sleeve. "You stupid bitch." I stumbled backward. My heel caught on broken pavement. I nearly fell. My injured hand slapped against the wall and left a wet print on the brick. The pain was everywhere now. Hand, arm, face, skull, stomach. It filled me so completely that there should have been no room for anything else. But beneath it, something opened. A quiet place. Not calm, not courage. Something harder. Bruce advanced with the knife raised. The sun flashed along the blade. I was going to die. The thought came again. I was going to die in an alley that smelled like garbage and hot brick. I was going to die with Bruce's spit-wet sleeve in front of me and my own blood in my mouth. I was going to die, and afterward people would ask what I had done to make him do it. I saw my mother at the kitchen table, my father looking into cold coffee, Ms. Zotto sighing, the officer holding the knife in the clear sleeve, Bruce collecting homework. I was going to die unless I stopped him. Something inside me answered, no. Not loud, not spoken, just no. The word dropped through me like a stone through dark water, and everything in me that had been scattering suddenly gathered around it. Bruce brought the knife down. My right hand rose. I caught the blade. It went through my palm. I felt the split, felt the steel bite deep, feel blood break hot across my fingers, but my hand did not let go. Bruce's eyes widened. For the first time since I had known him, he looked uncertain. I tightened my grip around the blade. The pain should have made me release it. Instead, the pain changed. It folded inward. The cut in my palm burned, then itched, then crawled. Something moved beneath the skin, fast and wrong, like threads pulling themselves tight. My bones hummed. The torn meat of my hand tugged itself together with a sensation so intimate and horrible that my knees nearly buckled. It was not relief. It was repair without permission. My body had stopped asking me what I could survive. Bruce tried to yank the knife free. I twisted. His fingers slid from the handle. The knife clattered to the pavement. The sound was small, final. Bruce stared at the knife, then at me. My palm was open around nothing. Blood covered my hand. I watched the wound close. Not all at once, not cleanly. The edges drew together in tiny, shivering increments. Red became dark, dark became scab. Scab tightened, cracked, flattened. Bruise yellowed and vanished beneath my skin. It hurt more than the cut. Healing should not feel like that. It felt like being rewritten by something that did not care whether I understood the language. Bruce took one step forward. His mouth opened. No words came. Inside me, the new place stirred. It did not sound like me. It did not sound like anyone. It was older than fear and colder than anger. Strike him! My fist drew back. Blood still ran down my forearm from the other wound. My nose dripped onto my shirt. My breath came in broken pulls. The alley seemed suddenly too bright. Every edge sharpened. The jagged line of the brick. The bent wire of the fence. The black shine of flies over the trash bins. The knife lying on the pavement between us. Bruce raised his hands too late. My fist hit his face. The impact moved through me like thunder through bone. I felt something give under my knuckles. Not my hand, his cheek, his jaw, teeth. The force snapped his head sideways and drove him back into the chain-link fence. Metal rattled behind him. He stood upright for one stunned second, swaying, eyes wide. He slid down the fence. Then blood spilled from his mouth. A piece of tooth landed on the pavement between us, white and red. Bruce looked down at it, then up at me. The anger came first. It always did with him. But this time something else followed. Fear. Real fear. Not fear of getting caught, not fear of embarrassment. Fear of me. For 3 years, Bruce had looked at me and seen a thing he could arrange, a problem he could create and solve, a joke that kept making him laugh. Now he saw something else, a threat, a fear in his eyes that should have made me feel safe. It should have felt like justice. Instead, the thing inside me leaned closer, listening, patient, like it had been waiting my whole life for someone to ask the right question. And the worst part was not that I knew the answer. The worst part was that I wanted to give it. By the time I saw my house, the red and blue lights had started to feel less like emergency and more like weather. They moved over everything in slow, bruised flashes. Red across my knees, blue across the metal grate between the front seat and the back, red across the officer's cheek in the rearview mirror, blue across the spearmint gum shifting steadily in her jaw. The back of the police car smelled like vinyl, old sweat, disinfectant, and rain that had dried into fabric too many times to ever fully leave. There was grit in the seam beneath my thigh. Someone scratched initials into the plastic beside my hip with something sharp. My stomach would not settle. It rolled and clenched as if Bruce's fist were still inside me, as if the alley had followed me into the car and curled up beneath my ribs. My heart beat louder now than it had when he raised the knife. That felt wrong. In the alley, everything had narrowed to one point: live or die. Now there was too much room for thinking, too much room for memory, too much room for what came next. The officer had not handcuffed me. That should have meant something. It did not mean anything to my body. My body remembered police cars, school offices, evidence bags, adults speaking over my head, my name said with disappointment already attached. I stared down at my hands. My right palm looked clean. That was the worst part. No split, no scar, no red seam where the blade had gone through. The skin was faintly pink in the center, tender looking and smooth, like something had grown over the old me and done a better job. Like nothing had happened. Like I had lied. My left wrist was different. That wound had closed, but badly. Beneath the skin, the bruise had spread into a deep yellow-green stain, darker at the center where Bruce's knife had gone in. When I flexed my fingers, pain pulled through the tendons in slow, bright threads. The numbness was gone. I almost missed it. Numbness had been useful. Numbness had belonged to shock, to survival. This pain was sharper because it waited until I was safe enough to feel it. If that was what this was. Safe. The police car slowed. My house came into view at the end of the street, small and square and too familiar. Porch light on, curtains drawn, the mailbox still leaning slightly left because Dad had been meaning to fix it for 2 years. The front walk was made of stepping stones. I had forgotten about them until the patrol lights struck the first one. My parents had made them when I was little. Cement poured into shallow molds, our handprints pressed into the surface before it dried. Mom had painted our names underneath in bright colors that had faded into soft ghosts. The stone closest to the road had my baby hands in it. 2 uneven starfish pressed into gray cement. The next had my toddler hands, still round and soft, fingers spread too wide because Dad had made me laugh while Mom tried to press them flat. Then came the school-age stones, bigger palms, longer fingers, paint smudged where I had refused to wait for one color to dry before adding another. After that, the stones changed. My parents' hands remained, Mom's narrow fingers, Dad's broad palms, but mine stopped. There were years where the cement held only the 2 of them. No empty space left for me. No explanation. By then there had been in too many meetings, too many phone calls, too many things found in my bag, too many exhausted adult faces. Family traditions were not taken away all at once. They were skipped once, then skipped again, then quietly redefined without you. The officer parked at the curb. The lights kept flashing. Red over the handprints, blue over the front door. My throat tightened so suddenly I had to swallow twice before I could speak. "Please," I said. The word came out smaller than I meant it to. The officer looked at me in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were dark and tired. Not unkind, just careful. The kind of careful adults use when they had already decided emotions made things messier. "Please just drop me off and leave," I said. "I can go in by myself. I can explain." The officer chewed her gum once, slowly. Spearmint filled the car when she spoke. "That's not how this works." Of course it wasn't. It never was. The door opened from the outside. Cool evening air slid in, carrying cut grass, car exhaust, and the faint resinous smell of Mom's rosemary bush beside the porch. I stood too fast. The world tipped. For one humiliating second, my knees forgot how to hold me. The officer caught my shoulder. Her grip was firm, automatic, impersonal. "You steady?" I nodded. My mouth tasted like blood again, though I didn't think I was bleeding anymore. We walked up the path. My shoes passed over all those old versions of my hands. Baby, toddler, child, then absence, absence, absence. The newer stones near the porch were cleaner. My parents had kept making them without me. For some reason, that hurt worse than my wrist. The officer knocked. Not like a neighbor, not like family. 3 hard strikes against the door, flat and official. The kind of knock that makes a house stop being a house. Inside, something shifted. A chair scraped. My mother opened the door. She saw the officer first, then me. Her eyes moved over my face, my blood-spotted shirt, my swollen wrist, the bruise already darkening along my jaw, the places where my nose had bled down to my collar. For half a second, she changed. It was so quick, I almost missed it. Her mouth softened. Her hand lifted from the doorframe, fingers opening toward me the way they used to when I was small and came home scraped from falling off my bike. Before questions, before blame, before school had trained her to hesitate. "Baron," she whispered. My chest cracked open around the sound of my name. Not angry, not tired, just my name. Then her eyes slid past me to the police car, to the lights, to the officer. The hand she had lifted stopped halfway. The fingers curled back in. The softness left her face so completely, it was like watching a curtain drop. Behind her, I could see my father at the dining room table. The overhead light was on, too yellow, too bright. A stack of mail sat in front of him. His coffee mug rested beside his right hand, untouched. The surface dark and still. He looked up once. His eyes met mine. Then he looked back down at the letters. My stomach sank so hard I thought I might be sick on the porch. "What did he do this time?" my mother asked. She said it to the officer, not to me. Not "what happened?" Not "who hurt you?" Not "Baron, are you okay?" What did he do this time? The officer shifted beside me. For the first time since she pulled up, her jaw stopped moving. "Ma'am," she said carefully, "your son was involved in an altercation. He's not under arrest at this time." At this time. The words hung there, sharp and official. Mom's eyes flicked back to me. For 1 second, she looked like she might ask the question, the right one, the one that could have opened the whole night into something else. "Were you hurt? Did he have the knife? Are you safe?" Her lips parted, then Dad turned a page inside the house. Paper whispered against paper. Mom heard it. So did I. She looked down. "Let's talk outside," she said to the officer. The door opened wider, just enough for me to enter. Not enough to be welcomed, enough to be deposited. I stepped inside. The house smelled like dinner gone cold, lemon cleaner, envelopes, and Dad's coffee. A smell so ordinary, it made my eyes sting. The door half closed behind me. I was left in the entryway. Not outside, not inside, just between. On the porch, the officer's voice lowered. Mom's answered. I couldn't make out every word. Only pieces. Bruce, hospital, defensive, knife recovered, witnesses, ongoing investigation. Defensive. I held on to that word for half a breath. Then Dad tore open another envelope. The sound cut through it. He did not ask if I was hurt. He did not ask why the officer had said defensive. He did not ask about the blood drying stiff on my shirt. He sat at the table and opened the mail. Bill, advertisement, notice, appointment reminder, paper tearing softly, paper flattening beneath his palm. My wrist throbbed in time with my heartbeat. My palm, the healed one, began to itch. Not on the surface, underneath. Deep where the blade had passed through and vanished. I rubbed it against my pants. The skin was too smooth, too new, too quiet. A minute passed, then another. The red and blue lights pulsed through the narrow windows beside the door, painting the hallway in alternating bruises. "I think I'm going to go to my room," I said. It came out almost polite, like I was asking permission to leave class. Dad put down the envelope in his hand. No. One word. Not loud, not angry. Worse, final. My body reacted before my mind did. My shoulder pulled inward. My stomach tightened. Heat climbed up my neck, followed by cold so fast it made my fingers tremble. My mouth dried out. For a second, I was back in Ms. Sato's room, with everyone watching and no one believing me. No. The word had weight. It pinned me where I was. Dad reached for something beside the stack of mail. A folded pamphlet. I knew what it was before he lifted it. The paper was thick and glossy, gray and white. A photograph on the front showed a line of teenagers standing in perfect formation beneath a stone archway. Gray uniforms, clean collars, polished shoes, smiles too even to be accidental. Agamemnon's Academy. The name sat across the top in black serif letters. My mouth went dry. "No," I whispered. Dad looked at the pamphlet, not at me. "I requested information last month." Last month. The words entered me slowly. Before the alley. Before Bruce followed me. Before the knife. Before my hand closed around steel and healed around nothing. Before whatever woke up inside me opened its eyes. Dad had been thinking about this last month. My lungs forgot their rhythm. "You were already going to send me there?" I was considering options. Options. The room seemed to tilt around that word. My healed palm itched harder. I pressed my fingers into it until pain flared. "Please don't tell me you're actually going to send me there." The desperation in my voice embarrassed me, but I could not stop it. "It wasn't my fault. He followed me. He had the knife. Dad raised one hand. I stopped. That was the worst thing. I stopped automatically, the way I had learned to stop for teachers, police officers, my mom's closed face, every adult who had already decided how much of me they could stand to hear. "I am not sending you anywhere," Dad said. For one impossible second, hope moved through me. Small, painful. Then he continued, "But you cannot stay here." The hope died so quickly it made me dizzy. "What? You cannot stay here," he repeated. "Not anymore." The porch murmuring stopped outside. Mom's shadow moved across the frosted glass. Dad folded his hands on the top of the pamphlet. "It has been too long, Baron. Too long. Like I was weather damage. Like I was mold in the walls. Like I was something they had endured past reason." "I didn't start this," I said. My voice barely existed. I know what you think, but I didn't bring the knife. I don't know what to think anymore." He said it quietly. That was almost worse than shouting. The dining room seemed to shrink around the sentence. Table, mail, cold coffee, pamphlet, door, red and blue lights, my mother outside, the officer talking, my wrist throbbing, my palm itching. "I'm your son," I said. I had not meant to say it. The words came out raw. Dad closed his eyes. For half a second, his face twisted. Not much, enough. Pain moved through him. I saw it. The old kind. The kind parents try to hide when they are about to do something that they have already decided is necessary. Then he opened his eyes, and whatever moved there was gone. And I am trying to keep this family standing. There it was. The story as he understood it. Not Bruce, not the knife, not the years of whispers and planted evidence and adults choosing the easiest explanation. A family standing. A problem inside it. Me. He slid the pamphlet across the table. The glossy paper whispered over the wood. "Here are your choices." I stared at it. The teenagers on the cover smiled up at me. Gray uniforms, straight backs, hands folded in front of them. Behind them, the academy gates rose tall and black, shaped like spears. "The streets," Dad said. He pointed toward the closed front door, where Mom and the officer stood beyond the glass. "Or Agamemnon's academy." My body felt very far away. I could hear everything too clearly. The refrigerator humming in the kitchen, the officer's radio crackling outside, Mom's quiet inhale, a car passing slowly on the street, the tiny ceramic tick of Dad's cooling coffee mug settling against the table. Then the door opened. Mom stepped inside. The officer remained on the porch behind her, one hand resting near her belt. Her face was unreadable in the flashing lights. Mom looked at me. Really looked. Her gaze caught on my swollen wrist, the blood on my shirt, the bruise on my jaw, my right hand curled at my side. Too clean. Her face broke just a little. "David," she said. Dad did not look away from me. "No." Mom swallowed. "That officer said there were witnesses." "She also said ongoing investigation." "He's hurt." So was Bruce. The name struck the room like something thrown. Bruce. My stomach clenched. Mom looked at me again. This was the moment. I knew it. Some part of me, some stupid child part that had survived everything, lifted its head. She took one step toward me. Her hand rose again. This time, it almost reached my sleeve, almost touched the blood, almost touched me. Then Dad said, softer, "We cannot keep doing this." Mom stopped. Her fingers hovered in the air between us. I could see her deciding. Not quickly, not easily. That made it worse. Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. She looked at my father, at the pamphlet, at the door, at the officer beyond it, at all the years that had trained her to be tired before she was loving. Then she lowered her hand. The child part of me went very still. Mom looked down. She did not say yes. She did not have to. Betrayal did not always sound like a slammed door. Sometimes it was a hand that almost reached you, then didn't. Dad pushed the pamphlet a little farther across the table. The academy gates gleamed under the dining room light. My palm stopped itching. The thing inside me had gone quiet. Not gone, never gone. Listening. I thought of Bruce's face when fear found him. I thought of his tooth on the pavement. I thought of the knife clattering away. I thought of the officer saying defensive. I thought of my mother's hand suspended in the air, close enough to save me from something, too far to matter. Outside, police lights kept flashing over the handprint stones. Baby hands, toddler hands, child hands, then years of absence. My wrist ached, my stomach turned. My heart beat so hard it felt less like an organ and more like a fist. Dad said, "Choose." I looked at the pamphlet, then at the front door, then at my mother, who still would not meet my eyes. My choice was clear. That was the cruelest part. Everyone in that room would call it a choice.